Imagine giving 16 years of your life to the people who are supposed to love you, only to find out they literally traded your future for beer money. This isn't just a betrayal, it's cold-blooded. Welcome to Effie Revenge, and trust me, you need to hear this one.
My name is Eri, and I'm 26. Last Saturday, I returned home after a 16-hour shift in the ICU. My hands still smelled of latex and antiseptic, and the wailing of sirens echoed in my ears. We had spent the entire night pulling a man out of twisted metal. All I dreamed of was walking into my room, lying down on my bed, and switching off the world. But in this family, I was never allowed to rest. My childhood ended at the age of 10, when my mother passed away. On that day, the light left our home and a heavy burden settled on my shoulders. My father, Richard, didn't become my support. He simply broke and decided that his grief gave him the right to be perpetually served. Overnight, I became a little mother to 2 men, a broken father, and a younger brother. While my peers played with dolls, I was learning how to cook dinners, balance bills, and scrub my father's shirts so he wouldn't look pathetic at work. Beside me, my younger brother Nate grew up. I cradled him at night when he cried for mum. I checked his homework and bought him his first pair of sneakers with money I saved from my lunch allowance, because I never had pocket money of my own. But the older he got, the more clearly I saw my father's shadow in him. Nate absorbed his arrogance, his conviction that a woman in the house is merely service staff. Father would often tell him in front of me, "Look, Nate, Eri is obligated to help us with everything. It is her duty to your mother's memory." They turned my grief into my leash. They took my decision to become a doctor as a personal insult. My father hated my success because every step toward my degree made me freer, and it reminded him of everything he had failed to achieve in his own life. While they slept, I studied anatomy by flashlight until dawn, so as not to waste their electricity. There was no other time. I was constantly occupied with housework. I fought for my profession against all odds, hoping to escape this pit and pull my family out with me. I was their free doctor, their plumber, their secretary, their ATM, and their conscience. And so, turning into my alley after my shift, I saw a crowd of strangers on the lawn. On my desk, the one where I had spent years building my future, there was now someone else's coffee and a price tag. Hanging over the garage was a sign written in my brother's handwriting. "Garage sale. Everything must go. Come and get it." I watched as people carried away my medical books, my clothes, and my mother's old armchair, which I had cherished like a sanctuary. My father stood in the center of this looting, busily counting a stack of crumpled bills. Looking at his satisfied face, I realized the most terrifying thing of all. I found out exactly how much my life was worth in my own father's eyes. Exactly $400. I stepped out of the car, and the sound of the door slamming shut sliced through the silence of the yard like a gunshot. My younger brother Nate, the boy for whom I had been a surrogate mother for 16 years, whose college bills I paid while denying myself new clothes, didn't even look up. He was busily taping shut a box of my medical textbooks, books I had saved for 6 months to buy by working night shifts. Across the box, in his sprawling handwriting, he had scrawled, "Junk, $5. "What is going on here, Dad?" My voice cracked, but my father didn't even turn around, continuing to count a stack of crumpled bills. He only paced over to me after taking the last $20 from a neighbor for my desk. In his eyes, I saw what he had hidden for years behind the mask of a weary widower, pure, caustic envy. It infuriated him that people in town called me Dr. Eri, while he was just Richard, forever in debt. "Oh, our great savior has returned." His voice dripped with venom. "Tired of saving the world, Eri? Want to lie down? Well, there's nowhere to go. Nate and I decided this house has become too cramped from your selfishness. You take up too much space, daughter. With your textbooks, your night shifts, your endless lecturing on how we should live. We're tired of feeling inadequate in the shadow of your white coat. I took a step toward him, pointing to the empty room visible through the window. That's my room, Dad. I've been paying the mortgage on this house for the last 3 years. I bought that desk. Yours? Father suddenly snapped into a scream, the vein in his neck bulging. Nothing in this house is yours. You only live here because I allow you to breathe this air. Did you think throwing us a few pennies from your salary made you the master here? You're just an arrogant girl who thinks she's God because she learned how to inject adrenaline. He stepped closer, the smell of tobacco and cheap coffee washing over me. Have you forgotten who fed you before your mother was even cold in her grave? Have you forgotten whose last name you carry? Your ambitions are stifling your brother. Nate needs space to grow his channel. He needs a studio, not your dusty bones in the next room. We've decided your room is perfect for Nate. And you... He nodded contemptuously toward the house. There's an old sofa in the attic. If this place is so precious to you, live there. Among the cobwebs and old boxes. That's exactly your level, Doctor. You'll come down only when we need dinner cooked or bills paid. I looked at my brother, hoping to see even a flicker of shame. But Nate only smirked, nudging my desk lamp with his foot. The very one I sat under with him when he had the chickenpox. Yeah, airy. Dad's right. He tossed out, eyes glued to a calculator. You've thought too much of yourself. Consider this a lesson in humility. The attic is where you belong, far away from us with your moralizing. We got $400 for your priceless junk. Just enough for my new graphics card. Your contribution to the family is finally tangible. Father fished a single $10 bill from the stack, the one he had just received from my mother's old album of our childhood photos. Here, buy yourself a coffee. You look like a walking corpse. Now go upstairs and clear out the clutter. You have a shift tomorrow. Great. We'll see less of your sour face. In that second, I realized they weren't just selling things. They were scavenging the ruins of my childhood, relishing the fact that they could finally reduce me to nothing. My father and brother stood shoulder to shoulder, two vultures who valued my 16 years of devotion at the price of a single restaurant dinner. I stood motionless as a crowd of random people flowed around me, carrying my life away piece by piece. My father was selling my surgery manuals, my instruments, every scrap of my memory, just to prove he could still break me. He wanted me to remain his little helper who silently fixed his life, not a successful doctor people looked to with hope. My success was a personal insult to him, a reminder of his own worthlessness. What airy cat got your tongue? Father approached, peering into my eyes with a frightening greed. Where's your pride? Where are your clever Latin words? You aren't in the OR here. Here, you're just a girl living in my house. And if I've decided your books are more useful as $10 in my pocket, then that's how it is. He jabbed a finger toward the attic window, overgrown with cobwebs. Go upstairs. That's your new office. Spread your rags on the floor if you want. The sofa there is sturdy, it was your mother's. You'll sit there quietly until Nate and I call you for dinner. And don't you dare turn on the light after midnight. I'm not paying for your late night vigils over textbooks. You've had enough of this scholarship. Meanwhile, Nate was enthusiastically showing a guy my old stethoscope, which I'd kept as a talisman. Look, almost new. My brother laughed. Take it for a $5. Dad needs beer money. At that moment, I felt something inside me finally turn to ice. Father stood over me, waiting for a flash of anger or tears. He adored my tears. They fed his power. He truly believed that by driving me into the attic, he would get back that obedient 10-year-old girl who once washed his shirts and trembled at his shout. He didn't understand that a person who sees death every day is no longer afraid of an old tyrant in worn-out slippers. Fine, Dad, I said, my voice devoid of any life. "Since you valued my life at $400 and an attic sofa, I accept your terms." He smirked self-importantly, failing to notice the cold light that flared in my eyes. The look doctors get before the most difficult surgery. He thought he had locked me in a cage under the roof. He didn't know that in that second, he had signed his own death warrant as a father. I walked slowly toward the house, feeling their triumphant stares on my back. They thought they had won, but they forgot one detail. I am an ICU doctor, and I know better than anyone when a system can no longer be saved, and it's time to pull the plug. I slowly climbed the steep stairs to the attic, each step creaking beneath my feet as if the house itself were groaning in shame. Behind me, the roar of Nate's laughter and the clinking of beer bottles echoed from below. They were celebrating my surrender. Father had won. He had driven his headstrong daughter under the very roof, stripped her of her chair, her desk and her dignity, leaving her to rot among old rags and boxes of Christmas decorations. The attic greeted me with the smell of dry dust and forgotten things. In the corner stood that same sofa sagging, with springs poking through, covered in a grey layer of time. The windows here hadn't been washed in years, and through the grimy glass, the setting sun looked like a dirty smudge. Father thought this was my prison. I sat on the edge of the sofa and opened my laptop. The glow from the screen illuminated my face, and if Father had glanced in now, he would have been frightened. There were no tears on my face. Instead, there was the cold, calculating focus of a surgeon, beginning the amputation of a gangrenous limb. "You wanted me to know my place," I whispered into the emptiness of the attic. "Fine. Let's start the inventory." My fingers flew across the keys. First, I logged into my online banking. Autopay for the mortgage disabled. Bills for electricity, water, gas, and trash deleted from the templates. The internet, which only I paid for so Nate could play his game subscription, cancelled starting next week. I unlinked my card from all their food deliveries, taxi services, and streaming platforms. They had grown used to everything in this house happening by itself. The lights stay on, the water flows, there's always milk in the fridge, and taxes are miraculously paid on time. They thought it was magic. They forgot that this magic was fueled by my sleepless nights and my hard-earned money. Father wanted me to be just a guest? Excellent. Guests don't pay other people's debts. They don't fix faucets or monitor the balances of someone else's cards. I closed the laptop and lay back on the dusty sofa, staring at the dark ceiling. Below, Father loudly demanded that I come down and cook them a late dinner, because Nate has an important stream, and he's hungry. I didn't move. For the first time in 16 years, I allowed myself the luxury of silence. Let him yell. Let him get used to the sound of his own voice, because soon it will be the only thing left in this house. In the stuffy silence of the attic, I opened a rental website. My fingers didn't tremble. I wasn't just looking for an apartment, I was looking for a fortress. A place where there would be no smell of stale booze, where no one would call my books junk, and where the lock on the door would belong only to me. Half an hour later, I found it. A tiny studio on the other side of the city, flooded with light, with bare white walls. Minimum furniture, maximum air. I messaged the landlord. "Can I see it tomorrow at 8 in the morning?" "Yes, come by." I closed the laptop and pulled an old gym bag from under the sofa one. Father hadn't managed to sell simply because it was stuffed with old rags. I shook out the scraps and began to pack the little I had left. My working stethoscope, which I had miraculously snatched from the neighbor's hands. A couple of spare sets of scrubs. A phone charger. And the most valuable thing of all, the folder with my documents and diploma, which I had kept hidden under the mattress all this time. I added a couple of t-shirts and sneakers. The bag was light, frighteningly light for someone who had lived in this house for 26 years. but it was everything that truly belonged to me. My knowledge, my work, and my freedom. From below came the heavy thud of Father's footsteps. "Airy," he bellowed, punching the attic ceiling. "Where's my dinner? Get down here and cook something now." I looked at my packed bag sitting at the foot of the dusty sofa. "I'm not hungry, Dad," I replied calmly, without raising my voice. "And I'm no longer your chef. There's no kitchen in the attic." Father grunted something in response, slammed a door, and left. He was certain that tomorrow I would cool off, apologize, and go back to being his convenient shadow. He didn't know that tomorrow at 8 a.m., while he's sleeping off his beers, I will walk out of this house forever. Saturday morning didn't begin with the smell of coffee and scrambled eggs that my father and brother had grown accustomed to over all these years. It began with silence. I woke up at 6 a.m. on my dusty attic sofa. My body ached, but my mind held a ringing clarity. I dressed quickly, grabbed my light bag, and, trying not to let the stairs creak, made my way down. The house looked like it had been ransacked. Empty boxes, dirty footprints on the floor from yesterday's sale, and mountains of unwashed dishes in the sink. My father was asleep on the living room sofa, clutching an empty bottle, and snoring drifted from Nate's room. I walked out the door without even looking back. Viewing the apartment took only 10 minutes. White walls, a massive window, and a silence undisturbed by drunken shouting. "I'll take it," I told the landlord, handing over the deposit. As I stepped back out onto the street, the first notification lit up my phone. 8:15 a.m. It was Nate. "Eri, what the hell? Why isn't the Wi-Fi working? I have an important team tournament in half an hour, and I can't get online. Get down here and fix the router." I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, calls from my father started pouring in. I let him suffer for another 10 minutes before picking up. "Eri," he bellowed so loudly the speaker crackled. "Did you die up in the attic? Nate's having a breakdown. The internet is dead. And I tried to order a pizza, but your app says payment error. What did you do?" I stood in the middle of the sun-drenched sidewalk, and for the first time in a long while, I smiled. "Good morning, Dad." My voice was cold and calm. "I didn't do anything. Just like you asked, I stopped acting like the master and the selfish one. I'm a guest, and guests don't pay internet bills. Furthermore, they certainly don't link their bank cards to other people's phones. You cut off the payments." Father gasped in outrage. "Have you lost your mind? We need those services. Turn everything back on right now, or I'll..." "Or what, Dad?" I interrupted. "Will you forbid me from sleeping on the attic sofa? These are your problems now." I hung up. But that was only the beginning. An hour later, my phone was exploding with texts. It turned out neither of them knew where the utility bills were kept, what the password was for the tax portal, or why the refrigerator was making strange noises. They had come face to face with life, and life was proving to be more than they could chew. I blocked their numbers for 2 hours so I could peacefully enjoy my first coffee in my new life. I knew that by evening, when they ran out of clean plates and patience, they would crawl up to the attic. But a surprise awaited them. The bird had flown, leaving behind nothing but an empty, dusty room and a mountain of unpaid bills they had for so long considered my debt to the family. By noon, my phone had turned into a searing brick. Missed calls from my father were replaced by hysterical messages from Nate. "Eri, this isn't funny. Turn the internet on. My ranking is dropping. Dad is furious. He's going to throw your sofa in the trash if you don't come down." They still thought I was sitting up there, in the dust and cobwebs, hugging my knees to my chest. They couldn't imagine me standing in my new studio completely empty, flooded with cold spring light. I placed my bag on the floor and pulled out my pressed blue scrubs and my stethoscope. My shift in the ICU started in an hour. While their world was collapsing over a lack of Wi-Fi, I was preparing to bring people back from the brink. I unblocked my phone just before heading out. "Eri!" My father's voice on the line was no longer commanding. It was shrill with helplessness. "Where are you? We went up to the attic and you aren't there. Nate needs to order food, and your card is blocked." I zipped up my jacket, looking at my reflection in the window. I moved out. A silence hung in the air so thick I could hear Nate breathing heavily on the other end. "Moved? Where?" my father rasped. "You don't have the right. You're obligated to—" "I was only obligated to Mom," I interrupted. "And I've paid that debt in full. For 16 years, I was your invisible engine. I fed you, paid your taxes, and scrubbed away your mistakes. But yesterday, you sold my right to that house. You set the price on my worth yourself. You ungrateful brat," he screamed. "We raised you. You owe us for every crust of bread. The bread I bought with my scholarship while you drank away the benefits." My voice remained ice cold. "Teach Nate how to use the stove before they shut off the gas for non-payment." "Eri, wait." It was Nate now. He had snatched the phone. "But what about my channel? You promised to help me with the equipment this month. You can't just abandon me like this." "I'm not abandoning you, Nate," I said, already walking to my car. "I'm giving you a chance to grow up and become a man." I ended the call, silenced the ringer, and tossed the phone into the glove compartment. 20 minutes later, I was walking through the hospital doors. The familiar scent of antiseptic, the rhythmic beep of monitors, and the bustle of the EVIS was my real life. This was where I was needed, and where my work was valued. All evening, I worked like a machine. We were handling a major accident, and I didn't have a single second to think about the dusty attic or the empty boxes. In the ICU, everything is honest. If you don't put in the effort, the patient dies. For 16 years, I tried to resuscitate my family, but today I finally pronounced them dead. Time of death, 10 a.m., Saturday. Cause of death, an overdose of arrogance. When I stepped out for a break and drank scalding coffee from the vending machine, I felt a strange lightness. In my pocket were the keys to an empty apartment where no one was waiting for me. And it was the most beautiful feeling in the world. On Thursday, I stepped out after a double shift in the ICU. For 24 hours, I had fought for other people's lives, tearing them from the clutches of death while sweat clouded my eyes beneath my face shield. I dreamed of the silence of my empty apartment, but in the hospital parking lot, right by my driver's side door, there they were. My father, Richard, and my brother, Nate. They looked feral. My father in the same stale shirt, his eyes red from sleeplessness and malice, stepped toward me, blocking my path. Nate stood slightly behind him, leaning possessively against someone else's car, looking defiantly at my blue scrubs. "Oh look, our Saint Eri has deigned to come out to the mere mortals." My father's voice dripped with venom, drawing the attention of colleagues leaving their shifts. "Did you turn off your phone? Did you think you could barricade yourself in your morgue and we'd forget about you?" "I was in surgery, Dad. I didn't have time for your hysterics." "What do you want?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but my knuckles turned white as I gripped my keys. "What do we want?" Father suddenly roared, closing the distance until I could feel his heavy, stale breath. "We want you to come back to the house and turn the gas on. They cut off our heat this morning. The house is an icebox. Nate has nothing to warm up his food. And he's caught a cold because of your selfishness. You blocked the joint card. You drained all the money from the accounts. Are you robbing your own father?" "I took my money, Richard. The money I earned while you drank away the remains of Mom's insurance." I tried to sidestep him, but he grabbed my shoulder with such force that my stethoscope barked painfully against my collarbone. "Don't you dare call me by my name, girl," he hissed, his face contorting into a mask of pure hatred. "Do you think this white coat gives you the right to look at us like trash? Do you think your mother would be proud of you? She died in your arms, Eri. She begged you. Take care of them. She believed she was leaving us to someone with a heart. But instead, she raised a calculating, cold creature who's willing to watch her family freeze just to feed her own pride." I froze. He always pulled out her name like a rusty knife, twisting it in my wound. It was his ultimate trump card, my eternal debt to the deceased. "If your mother could see you now," he continued, raising his voice so everyone around could hear, "she would curse the day she held you to her breast. You disgrace her memory with every breath you take in this luxurious new life. You abandoned your brother. You betrayed your own blood. You are the murderer of our family, Eri. You're killing us slower than the disease killed her. But it's far more agonizing." Nate, seeing me fall silent, decided to add his own portion of poison. He stepped closer, curling his lips into a smirk. "Eri, seriously, you're a doctor. You took an oath to help people. And here you are acting like a total bitch over some $400. Dad's right. You've always been arrogant. Do you like watching us suffer without internet and hot water? Does it give you a thrill to feel the power? You're just a coward, Eri. You ran away to the attic, and then to your little hole, just to avoid responsibility." I looked at them, at the man who had turned his wife's memory into a club, and at the boy I had bottle-fed who grew up to be a scavenger. There was no pain or pity left in me, only an icy void. "Help people?" I slowly, one by one, pried his fingers off my shoulder. "You know, Richard, in the ICU, there's a moment when we stop pumping the heart, when the brain is dead, and we're just wasting electricity on a corpse. Well, our family died biologically last Saturday at that garage sale." I stepped in close, looking directly into his bloodshot eyes. "You say Mom would curse me?" "No. Mom loved me. And that is exactly why she would scream in horror seeing how you've sucked the life out of me for 16 years, hiding behind her name. You aren't a father. You are a parasite that lost its host. And you, Nate," I shifted my gaze to my brother, "you didn't catch a cold. You're just lazy. There's a stove in the house and wood in the shed. But it's easier for you to come here and beg me for money than to get off your ass and light the fireplace." I pulled that same $10 bill out of my pocket, the one my father had tossed at me for coffee on the day of the sale. It was crumpled and dirty. I shoved it hard into his breast pocket, wrinkling his shirt. "Here, this is your cash back for Mum's memory. Go buy yourself a bottle and shut up forever. I am no longer paying for your comfort. I am not paying for your gas. And I am no longer paying with my health for your laziness. If the house is cold, burn the furniture. You're already good at that." I got into my car and locked the doors. My father began pounding his fist against the glass, screaming, "You'll come crawling back, you ungrateful wretch. You have no one but us." But I simply turned the ignition. In the mirror, I saw them standing in the middle of the parking lot. Two grown men who had realized for the first time in their lives that the free ride was over. I drove through the evening city, and the sound of my mother's voice no longer echoed in my ears. There was only silence. The purest, most right kind of silence in the world. 3 months passed. 3 months of absolute, crystal clear silence. I changed my number, blocked every social media account, and removed my name from the old house's deed, severing every last legal tie. Life in my new studio became a well-oiled machine. Work, gym, sleep, books. I bought real furniture, not the kind you'd find at a garage sale. My home smelled of lavender and peace, not stale booze and someone else's demands. I had almost forgotten the sound of their voices until a Wednesday evening, in the middle of my shift, when the ER doors swung open with a crash. Code blue to Trauma Bay 3. Male, 54, massive me, suspected pulmonary edema. A paramedic shouted. I strode down the hallway, pulling on my gloves as I went. My brain was already mapping out the algorithm. Epinephrine, defibrillator, intubation. But when I stepped across the threshold of the trauma bay, the world tilted for a split second. Lying on the gurney was Richard, my father. He looked 20 years older. His face was an ashen grey, his sunken cheeks covered in parchment-thin skin, carrying that unmistakable scent of neglected self-destruction. Beside him, clutching the rails of the gurney, sobbed Nate. His expensive hoodie was stained, his hair greasy apparently. The gaming studio in my old room hadn't yielded the expected millions. Airy. Nate lunged toward me, trying to grab the hem of my white coat. Thank God you're here. Save him. He collapsed right in the kitchen. We've been without power for so long. He was drinking constantly just to stay warm. We don't have money for other doctors, Eri. You have to. You're his daughter. You're a doctor. If he dies, it's on your conscience you abandoned us. I stopped 2 paces from the gurney. My gaze flicked to my father's face. He was conscious, and his eyes, filled with animal terror, locked onto mine. He tried to say something, his blue lips trembling, his hand reaching out weakly toward me. In that moment, not a single nerve in my body twitched. I felt no hatred, no pity, and no desire to prove how good I was. I felt only professional ethics. Team. I turned to the duty crew, ignoring my brother's wailing. I am declaring a conflict of interest. This patient is my biological father. According to hospital protocol, I am prohibited from performing resuscitation on a family member to ensure personal emotions do not compromise the quality of care. Nate froze, his mouth hanging open ridiculously. What? What are you talking about? What ethics? This is your dad. Grab the equipment. I looked at my brother, the cold, detached gaze of a surgeon. Dr. Markson, I addressed my colleague standing nearby. Take the patient. Medical history. Chronic alcoholism. Untreated hypertension. Non-compliance with medication for the last 3 months. I am stepping out of the room. Eri, you can't. My father wheezed, the first words he managed to force out. His voice was raspy, pathetic. You're killing me with this. You owe me. Your mother. Mum taught me when it was time to stop, Richard, I said, pausing at the door without turning around. I spent 16 years pulling you out of the holes you dug for yourself. My limit for resuscitations has been reached. Dr. Markson is an excellent specialist. He will do everything his duty requires. And my duty to you has been paid in full. I stepped into the hallway and pulled the double doors shut behind me. Through the glass, I saw the team begin their work. Saw the security guards escorting Nate out as he thrashed in hysterics, screaming curses. But I didn't hear him anymore. I went to the break room, poured myself a coffee, and opened the chart of another patient, a little girl who truly needed my help and who had her whole life ahead of her. My hands were perfectly steady. I didn't kill him. I simply handed him over to the fate he had been challenging for so long. A year had passed. The April sun flooded my new apartment, reflecting off the white walls and the smooth surface of the kitchen island. The air carried the scent of freshly ground coffee and the hyacinths I had bought for myself just because. My poodle lay stretched out in a patch of sunlight, fast asleep. My life now resembled a perfectly calibrated instrument. Work at the hospital, where I was valued as one of the best young IQ doctors. morning runs, and a silence I had learned to prize more than gold. Yesterday, a letter arrived. A real paper letter sent to the hospital's old address. It was from Nate. I opened it this morning, standing by the window. My brother's handwriting had become jittery and uncertain. He wrote that the house had finally been taken for debts. That father was now living in social housing on the outskirts, half paralyzed since that heart attack, spending his days staring at the wall and calling out my name. Nate was working as a courier, barely managing to pay the medical bills. Ari, we sold everything we could. We got pennies for it, and it was gone in a week. We were idiots. Please, just answer. Dad is dying of loneliness, and I can't cope. You're a doctor. You must understand what mercy is. I read to the end and slowly lowered my hand. Mercy. What a beautiful word. They always remembered it the moment they ran out of my resources. They called it mercy when they meant my obligation to be their eternal donor, financial, emotional, domestic. They wanted me to walk back into that burning room they had set on fire themselves and carry them out on my shoulders, burning alive in the process. I walked over to the shredder and fed the sheet into it. The machine hummed dryly, turning the pleas for help into fine white dust. I felt no anger. I felt no triumph. Only the deep, final calm of a surgeon who has finished an operation. If a patient continues to drink poison after being discharged, the doctor is no longer responsible for them. I gave them 16 years of my life. I gave them a chance in the IQ by handing them over to a top specialist. I had done everything duty dictated. My phone chirped a notification for the start of my shift. I put on a light spring coat, grabbed my bag with my stethoscope, and stepped out the door. Outside, it smelled of spring, a time when the old dies away to make room for the new. I walked toward my car, the sound of my heels on the asphalt sharp and confident. Ahead of me lay the hospital, patients I could actually help, and an endless clear sky. I was no longer Ari from the attic. I was a doctor, a woman, and the master of my own destiny. And in my new life, there was no longer any room for those who valued me at $400. Exactly 1 year had passed. The April sun flooded my new apartment, reflecting off the snow-white walls. The air carried the scent of fresh coffee and hyacinths. My poodle lay stretched out in a patch of sunlight, fast asleep. My life had become a perfectly tuned mechanism. But yesterday, that mechanism produced the result I had been working toward for all these years, pushing myself to the limit. At the end of my shift, the chief of medicine called me in. Ari, he said, placing a folder on the desk. Your stats in the ICU are the best in the department. Your composure in critical situations and your ability to make split-second decisions. Well, the confirmation has arrived. You're being offered the position of head of the intensive care unit at one of the capital's leading clinics. A 3-year contract, full relocation, and a fellowship in Switzerland. I looked at the document and felt a strange warmth spread through me. This wasn't just luck. This was the payoff for every sleepless night, every saved breath, and every insult I had forged into professionalism. As I was leaving the administration office, the secretary handed me a crumpled envelope, another one to the hospital address area, marked urgent family matter. I recognized Nate's jittery handwriting, but this time, I didn't wait until I got home. I opened it right there in the elevator. Ari, we sold everything we could, and that money only lasted a month. Dad almost never gets up now. He's constantly asking about you. You've had a whole year to cool off. Send at least a couple thousand for medicine, or we'll end up on the street. You abandoned us. Do something now. I read to the end and felt nothing. Not a spark of the usual irritation. Not a shadow of guilt. Over this past year, they hadn't taken a single step. Father continued to destroy himself, and Nate continued to look for someone to blame. They had spent 365 days not trying to change their lives even slightly, but tracking my work schedule just to send another scrap of paper filled with demands. They were waiting for me to cool off. I walked over to the shredder in the reception area and slowly fed the sheet into it. The machine hummed dryly, turning their attempts to manipulate me into fine paper dust. Today, I didn't go home after work. I went to the shipping company office to confirm the transport of my belongings to another city. In my new life, there would no longer be this mailbox. There would no longer be this hospital, whose address they had memorized. There wouldn't even be this city. I had given them everything. The mortgage payments, the insurance, the food, even a second chance in the IQ by handing my father over to an experienced colleague. I had fulfilled my duty as a daughter and as a doctor. Now, it was time to fulfill my duty to myself. I got into my car, tossed the folder with the new contract onto the passenger seat, and merged onto the highway. In the rearview mirror, the city gradually shrank, turning into a misty speck. Ahead was the capital, new challenges, and a complete, ringing freedom. Parasites cannot live without a host. But I was no longer a host, and I was driving toward my own dawn.
My blood is still boiling after everything we just heard, but that final moment in the ER, that is the definition of true justice. But I want to know what you think. Was she right to walk away, or should she have helped her family regardless of what they did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. This is Effie Revenge, and I'll see you soon.